Hi, everybody.
Oh,
Ooh, that was loud.
I don't know.
Welcome to the online video land grab panel. And I have to say, my name is Lori Schwartz. I'm the Chief Technology Catalyst for McCann World Group. I have a really fun role of helping our advertising agencies and our clients understand all the new opportunities coming down the pike with new technologies and new digital properties. And I had the great pleasure in the last couple of weeks of getting to talk to our panelists who are at the top of their game in the online video space. And it's wonderful to be at NATPE and get to really dig into online video. There's so much happening in this space. I didn't even realize how cool it was until I talked to everybody. So there are actually 2 billion video views served a day on YouTube, which represents about 50% of online video consumption. And how many of you have teenagers that are obsessed about YouTube stars? Okay, and you're always hearing about YouTube stars with like funny names like the Annoying Orange and Shane Dawson. Not that Shane Dawson's a funny name, but he's famous in his world. And so I have a panel now of folks that are digging into this on the monetization side, business model side, really taking this whole world of YouTube and turning it into a really exciting, viable business. So let's take a moment to introduce our panel. They're going to tell you about what they do every day. So we'll start with Christian Bach, who's the general manager of Alloy Digital. Christian, tell us about what you do.
So we at Alloy produce branded entertainment content. We distribute it through our network, the Alloy Digital Network, and we work with advertisers to integrate them into relevant opportunities. We're also known, Alloy as a business, for being the rights holders of Gossip Girl, Pretty Little Liars, and Vampire Diaries. So we have a few hits under our belt.
Fantastic. So all of you, of course, have heard of that unpopular show called Gossip Girl. So these guys are sitting right on top of that and many other fabulous properties. All right, next let's go to Ran Harnevo, who is the co-founder of 5Min Media and also the SVP of video for AOL, a small company. Yeah. You want to tell us about what you're doing at AOL?
So AOL Video is actually a new entity. Speaking about taking the online video experience to the next step. In AOL, we basically have 3 main video components. We produce content, and if you saw David Allen's one-on-one in the morning, we spend a lot of money in finding creative ways to create content, but what we also do, and basically this is what I'm going to focus in this conversation, is we look at all of the content partners out there as friends, and we aggregate around 200,000 videos to date that are curated, and we syndicate them across the web to thousands of websites, monetize them, and share the revenues with publishers and content creators in scale.
That's so cool. So AOL really has its fingers on a lot of different pieces of the video pie. And now let's go to Chris Williams, who's the GM of T180 Studios, which is a part of the magic of the Walt Disney Company.
Essentially, we produce original online series for 13 to 24-year-olds, primarily on channels we create on platforms like YouTube, and then monetize that through primarily the sale of advertising, but also international sales and other types of revenue streams.
Have any of you heard of Spoofaloo? No, that's one of his properties, and I assure you, if you had a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old, that's all that they would be doing.
It's got about 600,000 subscribers.
Yeah, that's nice. Good stuff. Dan Weinstein, head of digital entertainment for Salient Media, The Collective. Tell us about what you guys do.
We're primarily a management and production company, and we're representing a lot of sort of top online content creators, a lot of which are on YouTube, from properties like The Annoying Orange and Fred, Freddie Wong, and Hot for Words, and some of these people that have really tremendous platforms and millions of views and fans online, and helping them to expand their career in traditional media and continue to expand their career on online media, help them monetize it. One of the successes we had recently was we architected and produced the Fred movie, which we licensed to Nickelodeon, which was a huge success, and trying to do some more of that.
Fantastic. And then last but not least, Jim Louderback, CEO of Revision 3, who is my perpetual panel buddy. Jim, tell us about Revision 3.
Sure. Revision 3 is an internet television network. We produce 22 shows some of which we produce in-house, others of which we work with folks who are really, really good and bring them in, just like a traditional TV network. Some of the titles that we work with include Dig Nation, may have heard of that. The Young Turks, Janku was just up here before us, and a number of others, Totally Rad Show, Scam School, How to Scam Free Drinks from Your Friends at the Bar Using Magic, which very applicable to this particular group. We are focused on really super serving the 13 to 34-year-old guy audience, and we're really good at doing a particular type of content. We don't do scripted, we don't do reality TV. What we do are shows with really strong hosts who talk about the things that they're passionate about. We cover topics that our audience is passionate about, everything from politics to music to technology to video games. We do mostly on demand, all delivered on the internet. We consider success to be success on the internet. We're not trying to craft properties that will migrate up to broadcast. We think that working on the web is the perfect place to do it. And we're a big YouTube partner. We're really one of the top, or the number one and over the top. We're on all the different platforms you can manage there. And we're doing about, I don't know, 40 million views a month, about 12 or 13 million uniques a month. So nice business.
That's cool. So just to get a feeling on the audience, how many of you on a daily or weekly basis are consuming video online? Just raise your hand. Great. And have any of you canceled your cable or satellite subscriptions? Okay, a few of you. And how many are doing this on some sort of over-the-top box? And are any of you subscribing to particular shows on the internet? All right, so let's get into this concept of an internet star and owning an audience through that internet star. So Dan, is it possible to buy an audience?
It really depends on what your definition of audience is. You can buy traffic, and what that means, for an advertiser or a brand is really suspect in terms of blanket views. I mean, if you watch a video on YouTube that has, several 100,000 millions of views, but 0 comments, 0 engagements, anything like that, it really doesn't have a lot of meaning. But having an audience that's engaged, like some of these YouTube stars do, you can't buy. That has to be built organically. It has to come from sort of a unique place. The host, the content creator, the content has to be good. It has to be marketed to. You can, however, buy into that audience and utilize that audience to deliver a message. But buying that from scratch for your own purposes, I don't think is a really viable solution.
Chris, did you want to comment on that? You were shaking your head.
I was shaking my head yes, which is probably a bad thing to comment on, but I agree wholeheartedly that those audiences that aggregate around the content from the stars that he represents is real and authentic versus fake. I mean, my biggest pet peeve is primarily driven by video ad networks that leverage 300 by 250 little square boxes that you've all seen on every single page of the internet, and they shove video through them, and they call that a video view. And it's like counting a viewer of Desperate Housewives because you passed a billboard for it on the highway. I just have a real big problem with that notion. And so the talent that drives the authentic audiences, I think, is where advertisers and marketers are really going to get the most bang for their buck aligning with.
Jim,
Well, you have to understand there's a difference between what happens on web-based video and traditional video. Like Desperate Housewives, very push, there's no interaction. You sit home, you go home, you're like, oh, Desperate Housewives, Magnolia Drive, or whatever it is. Whereas on internet, to really build something that is going to be great for brands and great for audiences is exactly what you said. You've got to have engagement. If there's look, all media is about community, right? It's a community at some level, but internet-based stuff is community on steroids. And if you don't have that engagement, you're not going to get a return for any of the investment you put in as a marketer. And we do similar things to what you guys do, I know, is we take brands and instead of doing pre-rolls and overlays, yeah, we do those, but the really useful thing is to build them right into the video. So halfway through the video, the host, who has this direct connection with the audience, and by the way, it's not the kind of connection that a Hollywood star is where they're sitting on a big pedestal and everybody's like, oh, can I have your autograph? It's built on authenticity and everybody's friends. When you bring brands into that, it's got such a great connection when the host delivers it to the audience. It's an entirely different type. It's a new medium. I think it's a new medium.
Well, do you think that the pre-roll, because ultimately what's scalable, more scalable, is the pre-roll as opposed to the integrated message.
Well, the integrated stuff is scalable as you scale your audience. How many views does Knowing Orange get?
About 65 million a month.
Yeah, so that sounds pretty scalable to me.
All right, fair enough.
I mean, I haven't seen Del Monte sponsor it yet, but I'm sure that's
They have.
coming.
Well,
Have
let me ask
Not
you
yet.
guys a sponsorship question. So I come to you, I'm representing a brand, and Christian, let's start with you on this. And I love the audience that you have, the demographic that you have. Are you going to also provide me with the media to drive to that piece of content? Like, how does this work? Do I come to you and you take care of everything?
Yeah, so there's different, it depends on the advertiser's needs, but we typically work with the advertiser to integrate them into the content as much as possible without destroying the storyline. And we also provide them with big packages of media around the show, because we strongly believe that in order to get something seen, you need to build an audience for it. It's not the old build it and they will come. And whether that's on YouTube or on Hulu or on our own sites, we put a lot of effort and also dollars into driving the audiences towards the properties, and ultimately that's where the advertiser gets the integration, but also the reach and the media reach they want to get.
So you have access to a media network that you can tap.
So we've built our own network. We own the Alloy Digital Network, which reaches 32 million uniques a month on Comscore. And on top of that, we partner with people like Chris and with people like 5min and others on really driving the relevant audience for the content and building that audience for a program.
So Ran, if I came to you and I was interested in one of your AOL properties, would you offer me everything that I needed to drive audience there?
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, content creators are facing way more struggle, I think, on the web than they do on TV. Because if you close a deal with Scripps, for example, and they put you on prime time, you're basically done.
Yeah.
Now you just need to go and focus on the production side. And I think that on the web, it's much more complicated to create reach. I mean, how many of you guys here are uploading your content to digital networks?
How many of you are uploading?
All right, so not enough, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
And when content creators are starting to upload content that they already produced for TV or for the web,
Yeah.
Usually the biggest problem is scale. And therefore, if you look, the collective is kind of a network that really aggregates audience, around stars, and I would put Revision 3 in the same bucket, and so as us. So, the same way that if you go to TV and you want to buy American Idol as an advertiser, we would force you to buy the morning shows, and we would package it to a much more comprehensive buy. I think that what we are trying to do in AOL is, yes, to support great content creation, but also to create more ways to create meaningful scale for advertisers, because the biggest problem of the online video industry is that we're not big enough.
Right.
If you compare us to TV. And if we want to be really big so we can start shifting money and dollars from TV to the web, which would happen eventually.
So when you say scale, you basically mean enough eyeballs that an advertiser feels like they significantly are getting people to see their ads.
Yeah, and I would say more than that. I mean, the TV market is around $70 billion market. And usually, and I'm sure everyone would agree with me, the problem that online video properties have is that they can't offer them to spend enough, not the opposite.
Yeah.
We need to come to Lowe's and to Home Depot and to these other guys and be able to let them spend 5-10 mil in one campaign.
But don't you think part of that's profile? I mean, in the respect that there are shows online that have far greater audiences
Yes.
than shows on cable,
Yes.
and even some broadcasts.
By far.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about the Annoying Art, 65 million video views a month. That's
By far.
insane.
But the value of that audience is different from TV to online, which
But
is
the
part of
question
the
is-
problem.
And nobody here's ever heard of the Annoying
Yeah,
Art.
all right, so let's
That's
talk,
the
so
problem.
so what is that? Tell me what the value, the difference in value between a traditional broadcast audience situation and an online. What's the real impact for an advertiser?
Well, for me, it comes back to the ROI vis-a-vis engagement, right? So I'll take a really, really specific demographic of an engaged audience that's small versus just an expanded universe of passive impressions. And that's what the online media has, affords. The example that I'll use is the Annoying Orange one week put up a video that was a contest, and it was submit your fan photos of the Annoying Orange, and you can win a t-shirt. Submit it to Facebook. 6 hours after that video launched on YouTube, there were 25,000 entries on Facebook that actually disabled the Facebook account because it reached its data capacity, opened up a Gmail account, and we ended somewhere near 45,000, entries of people that went onto Illustrator or Photoshop and created something and submitted something. That is an incredible engagement level, and that has tremendous more value than just some passive view of something.
Well, here's the thing. Look, traditional television, it's measured, and ads measured in an opportunity to see, right? You can't guarantee that somebody saw that ad. It's an OTS. It's basically, you got to run it 4 or 5 times to guarantee that somebody actually saw it, statistically speaking. But broadcast television is great because it can sit at the top of the funnel. If you want somebody to know that you've got a new Swiffer coming out, you're going to run it on broadcast. You're going to get every single, household in the U.S. is going to see it eventually if you run it enough times. But if you want to move a little bit further down the funnel and get to people who are considering your product and try and get inside their head and really get them to understand what's going on, that's what internet video does really well. And it also is, and I believe that we are moving from kind of a failed interruption model. Think about it. How many people have TiVos or DVRs or ad blockers? How many people skip through ads? None of you, I know. But that interruption model is starting to go away. And it's not ever going to completely go away. You're still going to be driving down the road, and there's going to be a billboard up there, and you're like, I wish I hadn't seen that, but I did. But the idea is you're really moving to a space where you have to earn the right to interrupt somebody. And that's what these audiences and communities that we're all building do. We have such engaged communities. 45,000 of them do a picture of an orange and send it up to Gmail. That they love it so much that when that sponsorship branding message comes along, they're actually going to sit and watch it and listen to it, even on pre-roll basis. So our pre-rolls, this is amazing. We do pre-rolls, and I don't think it's a great format, but we have a 5% click-through on our pre-rolls. That doesn't really happen anywhere, but it's because the audience is engaged, they know that it's free, and they got to pay something to get it, and they are open and receptive to the marketing messages that come along. We have earned the right to interrupt them, rather than traditional television, where when you get interrupted, you go to the bathroom.
Ran, you?
So I kind of disagree with the
All right, we're going to
notion.
have a fight, which is what we all live for. All right, good.
Bring it on.
I think you guys are right. I think you've built amazing networks. Very difficult. And this is where I think this is the biggest differentiation. If you're producing for TV and you get your spot, you get your prime time, you're done. Really, really difficult to build prime time on the web. And now there's 2 approaches. You can go to advertisers and you can say, yeah, I'm smaller, but I'm worth much more. I want you to pay me way more than what you're paying on TV because I'm bringing you engagement. And therefore, I'm the new media. And you know what? It's right. And I agree with it. In theory, it's the right thing to say. In reality, I feel that advertisers love TV. They know how to buy on TV. And if the online video space want to take the money into the web, we need to think about how do we compare apples to apples for them so they can buy something that is closer to TV than creating a new beast that we call the web. And I think that what we are trying to do, at least in AOL, is to combine the great creation and the network and to create some kind of a melding pot that has them that have everything there and that can represent a lot of content so that we create the scale so that the TV advertisers would start engaging with the web and understand what we're doing, and then we can shift them into the new world. But going from a $6, $7 CPM to a 24 because we're better is just not scalable enough, in my opinion.
What's scale? What do you think is scale? What's the number? Like in terms of audience? 2 billion video views a day on YouTube alone.
Yes, that's scale.
That's scale.
Yeah, but if you compare, I met the CEO of one of the biggest advertising companies in New York, and what he told me, I wouldn't give the exact
What does his
quote.
company rhyme with?
He basically told me, and excuse me for my French, but I'm just quoting, that online video right now is it's growing like crazy, but we're still a zip on TV's whatever.
Radar. Tushy? Tushy?
Yeah,
You can say tushy.
Toshi. And I think that, yes, scale matters, quality matters. The fact that not a lot of you guys are still taking your content online is one of the biggest problems. Because I think you don't know how to take it online and make money with it. But the industry needs to scale. Set-up boxes is the way to get scale. Yeah, but it's a combination of quality and scale. It's not only about engagement, in my opinion. It's also about numbers.
Yeah, Christian? Yeah.
I think one of the biggest points that you all refer to is that there aren't enough brand names to buy yet. And if you think about why do people buy CW all day long, or NBC or CBS or whoever it is, it's a trusted brand that they buy. They know that they will deliver large-scale volume, and they know that if they want to spend $1 million a week on promoting their newest skincare product, they can. If you go to any of us here on stage or any of the other people out there, including YouTube, and you say, I want to spend $1 million on pre-roll every week to promote my new skincare product, everybody is going to say, well, that's great, let me make 58 phone calls, and then they'll call everyone else.
It's complex.
It's very complex, and you can't then go to one place, switch on your TV, and see that you're running your $1 million worth of advertising every week. Until we get to that sort of scale, I think it's going to be challenging.
So Chris, tell me, we were talking about this. So is YouTube my friend as a content creator, or are they my frenemy? Are they a distributor? Are they an ad market? I mean, what are they?
Well, I don't work at YouTube, but I can speak for the experiences of a YouTube partner. And there is YouTube people in the audience. We probably should have them on the panel.
Any Google YouTube folks here?
There is. There's Margaret.
All right. We love you, but we might mock you right now. So.
Well, I honestly think a lot of it comes down to culture clash between Google, the parent company, and YouTube, the division, in that YouTube's in the content business and Google is in the scaled display and search advertising business. And I'm not sure those two things mesh very well. I know that you'll argue with me on this one too, but ultimately, when YouTube makes it clear what their strategies are, we as partners can align with those strategies. I don't think they've ever done that. I don't think they've ever said, we're going to be just like a cable MSO. And you're going to be a network, and you're going to launch channels, and you're going to fill those channels with programming, and you're going to sell ads at the network level, right? Big issues. Only very few of us can sell ads at the network level on YouTube. And then we're going to put our resources into supporting that effort. Versus, are we the media company, and we're going to sell all the ads? I think that, especially because monetization right now is really the big problem. So you talk about $6 or $7 CPMs on TV. What are we seeing on YouTube, right? We're seeing $1, $2, $3, maybe $4 if you're lucky, and that delta needs to be changed either by YouTube or by sales at the network level. I'm a believer in YouTube as the cable MSO model, where we build networks with scale, right? Networks that have 100 million, 200 million, 300 million, 400 million video views a month, and are capable of selling those at a premium because we're selling content, not audience. And I just don't know where YouTube stands because they don't tell you.
First of all, I think that everyone needs to upload their content to YouTube as a starting point. Again, with the right support, with the right deal, and I mean, we don't work with YouTube, we work with the rest of the web. But 5min, for example, is a company that asks content creators to bring us content so we can syndicate it. And I think that the biggest problem that content creators have on the web is the fragmentation. The fragmentation just allows so much content to be uploaded.
So how do I find something?
So how do I find something, and how do I find the audience? Because the audience is fragmented as well. And YouTube right now has the audience the way Facebook have the audience, YouTube have the audience, Apple have the audience on their devices, and you got to play.
And all those companies do something very similar, right? I know a lot of engineering resources at YouTube go into keeping me there longer.
Right.
Which is great.
Which means, and they have a lot of great resources, The engineers that haven't been stolen by Facebook are still, working really hard on making sure the next video is one that I want to watch.
I agree, and we're in 5min, what we're doing basically is we're helping content creators to push their content to sites that never had video beforehand. Because the web is getting filled with a lot of video, and there is a chase right now
Yeah.
for great content that people want to have.
Yeah.
And I think it's time for content creators to be way more active and be way more experimental in the way they address the web.
Christian?
Well, to make it clear that there's money to be made, I think that
Yes.
that is one of the biggest. That the mentality is still, you know,
It's
I
not
know
real.
Zucker was up here before, right? Digital pennies for
No, I agree.
traditional
But
dollars.
you guys are all eating well.
Well, it's a little different from me. I'm part of this big major machine.
No,
Well,
on the web, as probably all of the audience know, and we certainly all know, you currently have to work really hard to get $1 in revenue, and you have to be a marketer, you have to be a content creator, you have to be a seller.
You have to do it all.
You have to do it all, and that's great for entrepreneurial folks, and that's great for people who really want to help create a new market. It's not, because it's not that standardized and it's not that large yet, it's a lot of effort, but it's a lot of fun, and for every content creator in the audience, you have to get in on it, because it's not going to go away. It's just going to get much bigger, and maybe next year we get to speak in the big room instead of in the backyard.
Well, and Dan wouldn't want me talking about this, but there are YouTube stars making 6 figures a month.
Right.
So, I mean, and that's at digital
and-
pennies.
and
Those
is
are,
that-
I mean, if
is
they were
that
making what they
from-
should make, it'd be more like 7.
Is that from ad dollars that they're
Strictly,
making?
well,
Strictly the partnership with YouTube, but I mean, you know,
So
it's,
YouTube is paying them?
there's a program on YouTube called the Partner Program that you opt into and get accepted into, where they run ads against your content and they pay you on a split of those ads.
Okay.
And a number of them, you know, really in the last year and a half, that's actually turned into a real business at scale. But it's turned into a real business, which is why a lot of us are here today having this conversation. It's still a very new marketplace,
Right.
and it's got to mature, and we're trying to figure out the best way to help it mature.
Yeah.
But it's still very, very new. But
it's got a long way to go.
How many of you knew about the YouTube Partner Program? Okay, good. All right, I wanted to talk, Jim, just to you for a second about this whole cross-platform thing. So if I can't get scale just on YouTube or on my PC or Mac, what about these other devices, and could that all add up to scale? How are you engaging on that front?
Yeah, look, I think you need to be wherever your viewers are, and there are a lot of opportunities out there. YouTube is certainly a great place to be and to start. And look, half of all views on the internet are happening on YouTube, so you want to be there. But there's also a great opportunity as we see emerging classes of devices come out, and to be early there to try and grab some viewers as well. So we talked a little bit about over the top before, but think about, well, I was just at CES, and basically every TV vendor now has a smart TV, right? We went from dumb phones to smartphones. We're going from dumb TVs to smart TVs. That means that you can now build apps that will go be installed on basically the home page of the TV. Well, if you're creating content and you've got an audience, there is an opportunity to create your own app, and it's not that hard, to show up on Samsung, on Sony, on Roku, on Boxy, and get it out there and get in front of people, because it's like an install. If you get someone installed on their TV and it shows up, they turn their TV on and there's your little icon, that's gonna get you, that's gonna bring you some audience. So, and on the TV side, it's interesting because none of the major networks are doing anything right now. You talk to them and they're like, oh, we're not, we're maybe doing a
it's the
promos,
biggest
but
enemy.
so it's an opportunity to get out there before they do.
And
So,
time
yeah,
to
when-
market is key there. Time to market
Exactly.
is totally key, because it's like search engine optimization. When you wake up and you say, oh, I should have done search engine optimization, the people that realized,
Yeah.
in first place are now winning search. And I
Right.
think it's the same thing. Like TV guys that are producing content in TV cannot fall asleep and say, oh, when this thing would work, we would join.
Yeah, but I work at a major media company, and you know how we solve that problem? We buy stuff.
All right.
And that happened.
I got bought.
I know you did, so did I. So we both know. We're both bought by major media companies.
But I'm not speaking about the biggest major media companies. I'm speaking about content producers that want to make a living and they don't find the web dollars. They think it's pennies, so they go and they pitch to the TV stations with like disregarding the web as a whole. And I agree with Jim. The time to market is key, because you have the opportunity to be first on iTunes, to be first on Apple TV, to be first on Boxy, and that's meaningful.
Yeah, how many people
But do
know
you
about
really-
Honeycomb?
really?
Okay, who knows about Honeycomb? Honeycomb is the version of Android that is going to be out on tablets that on the 21st of February, the first Honeycomb tablet from Motorola ships. Now, we haven't even seen the SDK yet. But I guarantee you, well, I'm not going to guarantee you because...
Can you explain what an SDK is?
So SDK is software development kit, so you can build a little app that'll run it. So when Honeycomb comes out, it's going to be the Android app that's going to power all these tablets we all saw at CES. Revision 3 will be there at launch. My developer tells me we will, even though we haven't seen that SDK yet. I'm going to make him do it. But that's important because when you buy one of these things, we'll be one of the few things that'll be in full HD glory there. And you can do that now. You should do that.
So are any of your stars or talent coming to you and saying, how come I'm not on the iPad? Or what can we do to make sure I'm on all the devices?
Sure.
Well, one thing that I'll back up for 1 second.
Yeah.
Something that I think is important to content creators going forward. We're talking a lot about the video media marketplace and YouTube. And as it stands right now, a lot of the talent that we're working with, the Annoying Orange, a lot of these are still associated with YouTube. They're YouTube stars, they're this. Even Spoofaloo or some of these things, they're associated with the medium in which they are consumed.
Attached to, right.
Going forward, and what's going to be a key for monetization is these channels, these brands, these experiences becoming their own brands. Doing the SEO, the SEM, the Facebook, the this, the that, the other thing, and having the Annoying Orange app, having the this, that, and the other thing. Yeah. And that's going to be the real key for monetizing it in a real way.
Yeah, why isn't there an orange on my Samsung TV right now?
There will be.
Probably, yeah.
We can help you build it.
But, okay, so going back to...
Can I just say one thing about that?
Please.
Because I just, like, if we're predominantly content creators, I'm imagining our Philly audience, can you really look them in the eye and tell them to dedicate resources to the television apps when it doesn't matter how many televisions they are installed on, people still don't use them?
But they will, and so I will also tell you there's a company called Flingo, F-L-I-N-G-O, that will do your app development and put that out there. And look, there are people on Roku. There's, oh God, I can't remember. There's a couple of companies that will put...
It's going to hit this year.
I just feel like
there's 1 million Rokus out there. There will be 2 million soon. There are, I mean, 30%
Yahoo
of
says
the TVs.
6 million people are using their widgets.
Connected TV platform is going big.
Do you know any? I don't.
Yeah, but Jim, I mean, to your
Do
point,
I know any? Come to my office. I'll show them.
Have
I
played
have all
with
that
a
stuff, but
connected
we're in the
TV.
business.
Anybody here play with a connected TV? Have a Roku device? Netflix?
Netflix.
Okay.
Netflix will be a huge way of
Jim,
adoption.
I mean,
Rand?
Amazon's rumored to be coming out with their Netflix killer.
Roku.
Get on Amazon.
I think
Rand?
Roku is a great product. We have a Roku channel, and I think we're doing, on average, something like 50 views a day on there.
See, that's my point.
We're doing much more than that.
Make it 10
And
times
we got
as
there
much,
early. We were the first independent video
There's
channel out
something
there.
to be said to be first to market. If there's a
Yes.
lack of
Yeah.
options and you watch that content, you discover it more easily. And over time, if it takes off, it could turn into
You know what's also interesting too is that we focus on different audiences, right? And so I think
True, my audience is more predisposed because it's geeky guys versus 15-year-old girls.
That's exactly right, and that's a big difference.
But I'm a
It's big
girl and I like my boxes. Well, Rand, did you want to say something?
Yeah, how many people here are producing things that are not purely entertainment stars, but things that are more evergreen, things that have a longer life shelf? Because I feel, I mean, 5 Me in the company, I was one of the founders of. We basically, and I just think it's important, it's not only about stars. There's a lot of content that was produced which is health, travel, things, information, how-tos, that have a great long life shelf on the web that can be syndicated. There's a lot of publishers that would be happy to use your content. And the whole YouTube debate on building the next Justin Biebers is a very important one. But it's not only about that. And there's another way to take content that was produced for TV, for iPads, for whatever, and create incremental revenues on the web with the same pieces of content that you already, worked with on TV. So there's one thing is creating content, especially for the new platforms, that is more interactive and engaging. And the other stuff is what do you do with your archives?
So if I'm one of these guys and I've got a show, how do I get it to you guys? What's the process? How are you discovering talent, shows, content? What's your process? And can you give us your email and mobile phone number so we can...
We are aggregators, and I disagree. I don't think YouTube is a content company. I think Google is an aggregation company.
I think they've never said.
Yeah, but they aggregate.
They act that way right
and
now.
if you aggregate...
Cage match.
We basically take the content, we repurpose it, and we send it to the right places. If people here have MRSS feeds, they don't need to work whatsoever. And if they don't, then we can have a conversation. But we're hungry for content for AOL. We don't believe you should produce all of it.
Christian?
So we're a little more selective because ours is not a long tail play. But we are, if you have a great idea, or if you have content that targets 12 to 34-year-old females, and that can be turned into interesting storylines, talk to me. Come to me after the panel or email. We're always looking for new ideas, and we're also looking for people who are hungry and who want to create channels with us.
And I will say that I do that too, so ditto that, 12 to 34 girl. But we're now doing a lot more at looking at the Disney brand and what we can do against the Disney brand. Disney Online and Disney.com is going to become, video is now a priority. And that means that we are somewhat open for business on that front. So 8 to 12-year-olds, girls or boys, but focus on one. That is definitely stuff that we are both developing and producing in-house, and also looking outside for distribution on Disney Online.
Dan?
I mean, it's not all that dissimilar from the traditional talent business, which is what our company was sort of, I guess, founded on, which is find talented individuals that you think that you can develop IP around and help them monetize it, whether it's online media, whether it's television, film, whether they're simply casting or what have you. It's really just locating talented individuals and helping them build their brands. The one caveat that I'll add is that it certainly helps in this new world if there's a platform that's in existence. So, I tend to focus a lot of my energy looking for and working with really talented personalities, content creators that have built an audience that you can leverage for a number of different things.
Yeah, we follow the charts. There are actually some pretty robust sites out there now for tracking YouTube video views, subscribers, momentum, that are very useful in spotting up-and-coming talent.
Can you tell us some of those?
Do you remember the
No.
names of these? I cannot remember. There's like two that I have bookmarked that I
There's a
use
YouTube.
religiously.
I mean, honestly, YouTube has their own chart
do.
system. It's not that difficult to discern who has a big audience and who doesn't.
I always ask my teens, I have step teens, which is a whole nother panel, but I always ask them, what are you watching? And that's how I found out about what you guys are doing from them. But Jim, what about you? How are you finding new shows, new talent?
So for us, it's, we have a specific formula, specific audience. It's 13 to 34-year-old guys. It's nonfiction, host-driven, real communities around it. And for us, we go and we look at people who have these communities and either are doing video, building a community, need some help with distribution, monetization, et cetera, or people who have great audiences who maybe aren't doing video yet, but they want to work with somebody to help them do that. So in those cases, like for example, Destructoid, we work with a video game blog, Destructoid, which is an up-and-coming video game blog, and we're doing a 3 times a week news show with them now that's gotten really popular, and that's an example of us finding a cool site with lots of audience and trying to build a video product around it.
That's great. Let's take some questions from the audience. You've got 5 really smart, connected people up there. Any questions for anybody? Anybody? Yep, got one over there.
Giannis, I have a question. What kind of syndication do you have versus television on a net? Like how explicit the content can be? If I'm a content producer that produces explicit content, what kind of chances are of me producing it myself and trying to show it on YouTube as opposed to try to go broader range or maybe even television?
Well, defines explicit whether you're talking about language or nudity.
Yeah.
Language.
Language is fine. Our shows, the 7 words you can't say on TV are said regularly and often. Not pejoratively, but and that's not an issue for most of the people we work with.
Wouldn't be right for Disney,
For Disney.
for example. But
It's really, the brands are how we pay for a lot of this stuff at the moment, and it's really what they will bear. Some brands are very, very adamant that it's got to be PG. Some are edgier.
Yeah.
Another question? Oh, you got one? Okay, great.
Hey, my name is Al Thompson. I had a question for Dan. As far as what I guess is kind of like the mini process or steps that you try to go about when you pick up a new client, let's say, for example, like a Freddie Wong, who's a talented guy, you know, you start working with him. What's kind of like the process or kind of goals that you set when you acquire a client like that?
You know, Freddie's actually our client. Oh, you do? All right. You know, it varies. I mean, because there's a lot of different avenues that talent goes down. There's filmmakers, there's personalities, there's a number of different avenues. But we'll sit down with them. You know, obviously Freddie is extraordinarily talented as a filmmaker. He has a platform, and it was, you know, what do you want to? I mean, what are your goals? What are your dreams, passions, the whole thing that we sort of map out and say, this is where we can execute. This is where we can help. You know, there's a television show in the works. There's a web series in the works. It really spans the universe. And you know, one unique thing that we are starting to do more of is partner with our talent in creating content. Whereas they don't necessarily have the funds to go in, you know, much larger in scale than what they're currently doing. So we may help them. You know, in the case of Fred, we financed and produced a feature-length motion picture with him that he, at 16, is an owner in partnership with us, that we licensed to Nickelodeon. And we're looking to do a lot more along those lines.
Before we go to another question, I was just thinking, so what do you guys think next year and the coming years look like for this industry? I mean, where do you see this going? Do you think YouTube will take over the world? Will they go away? Give me some of your vision of what you think the next year is going to look like.
I think that there's an unbelievable fight that is just starting on breaking and disrupting the cable model.
So you guys are going to take cable down?
Yeah, but you're saying, she said a year.
Well, we can
You're not going to
roll
break
it to
it
a
in
couple
a
of
year.
years.
No, not in a year, but it started like the Roku, the box, like everyone here would join hands in order to get
So
enough.
over the top is going to take a bite out of cable.
Well, and I think you're seeing it happen already. I mean, look at Wealth TV has now said that they're giving up on cable and they're going on an online strategy, $3 a month. I think it's going to take a little time. I think we're going to see cord shaving, not cord cutting. People are going to scale back what they pay for, and they're going to augment that with more and more stuff online, whether it happens via over the top or other ways. But I also think, I mean, so in general, I think we're still in the cowpath nature of internet video where, you know, everybody is trying to replicate television online. And just like, you know, how many people have seen cows in a pasture? They walk down the same path. If you move the food over, they follow the same path and they walk over the food. Eventually, they figure out that they can get to the food more quickly. We haven't gotten to that point in the cow path yet, and that
Are you saying we're
will
all
happen.
cows?
Basically. I mean, basically, anytime a new media comes out, we always try and recreate it in the guise of the old media. And then we sort of figure out what that media is good for and how to do it. And right now, we're trying to recreate television on the internet. That's going to be viable and effective, but there will be a new, I mean, think about with print.
I don't know about that. I think
Come on,
when you're
what happened with
working
print
on
online? It happened with music online.
When you're working on original online video, I think most of us who do that are not just trying to replicate television.
You're right, but you're right. But the people, listen to what
wow.
AOL's doing. I mean, what Rand was talking about is we want to create this big reach and frequency vehicle. We want to be able to put this stuff out there. It is trying to recreate. Think about the commercials. The 15 and 30-second spots we see going online are basically recreations of internet spots. We have not reached the point where we really know what this medium does. And the people who actually are doing it best are the annoying oranges guys, the guys you're working with. Most of the people we're working with, but we're still looking at people putting, you know, what is essentially a 22-minute show up online, then they get surprised when no one watches.
But what's the same is brand and talent. And I think those two things are going to be ubiquitous across any of the mediums that you talk about. And I think they're really important.
But it's different kinds of talent, right?
It
I mean,
can
there
be,
are talents.
yes.
I mean, we have the ability
orange,
now.
The orange is more like a comic strip than it is like a TV show.
Exactly. We are entering a world where it used to be just like in music. If you didn't have a contract with a label, if you want to do television, if you go to New York or LA and worked your way up, you never would have gotten a show on TV. Now we're enabling this entire middle class of video creators to actually have a good life, to make video, and yeah, some of them are going to reach the $100,000, $200,000 a month level, but there are going to be a lot more who are going to have a family and kids, and they'll be middle class. and they're going to make great video programming and they're going to build audiences. That's what's different.
Wow, the State of the Union is tonight, but I think we got a little taste of it here. Christian, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a huge amount of money flowing into video in 2011 and going forward. It's probably going to go up 50% this year and more next year. And all of us are going to figure out how can we get a chunk of it and how can we double our business.
I actually think focusing on the
Yeah, I'm going to send you a big check, all of you.
See, don't you think focusing on the TV money, I think, is a little bit, like, I think there's actually lower hanging fruit for us up here.
And I think in terms of...
I think the display money is
a lot of
it's a $20 billion a year business.
Magazine money. What about magazine? Magazines are going away. Newspapers are going away.
That's
money.
a whole nother
And
panel.
I think in terms of formats, we don't know yet what it's going to be. There's some really cool new stuff coming out that is more engaging video. I think things like Hulu Ad Selector are really interesting. And the more of these come out, the more web will be able to charge a premium for the stuff they have to offer, and we'll all benefit from that.
All right, well, we're getting the wrap up. I want to thank our panelists. If you guys have a chance, please talk to them afterwards, and also check out what they're up to. Lots of great content online. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the show.